like they did Mega Evers. They catch you doing a speech at the Audubon Ballroom, and the real players got to come out now because you can't use your puppet pale face. Right? When you tell them to stop selling dope in your neighborhood, like Father God Allah Pudding, they want to come put a ridiculous amount of holes in you. And they look just like him. Because they couldn't have slid in and out of that particular neighborhood if they don't look like the people in the neighborhood.
Wow.
If you are an artist with a big mouth, they're going to send these dudes at you in the camouflage while the police to look out on the outside and say that somebody was trying to rob you and hope that you don't see who it was. Because then you can blame people that's closest to you, because normally if you schooled in the art of war, they normally use the closest to you to reach out and touch you. All this tied back in to the political satire in DC, in the arts and entertainment of Hollywood, as Hollywood is burning, but the land is freezing. Southwest Detroit right now underwater. They say a water main break. I don't believe it.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. It doesn't
I don't believe that. I'll a bit more believe that's a water main break, as I believe that fire just started spontaneously in California. That's too much water. That had to be a big pipeline open.
That's really.
We didn't have water main breaks. I didn't see them my whole life. I've never seen one flood a neighborhood that fast. Normally, by the time it flood the street where it's broke at is where you saw the grounds crew from the water company digging. They come out immediately. They don't lag. The Detroit water, they ain't the best. They ain't the worst either. They'll get out there in a reasonable time to patch a water main break. That's not no water main break. Somebody opened up something that puts water on the land like that. I ain't falling for it. I don't believe it. But it's also coded in the 313. Southwest.
Okay.
Right? When you look at the Southwest, now you're looking at the Texas, Arizona, Florida area. Where was the Super Bowl?
Where did they have it? Where I was looking at
Was it in Louisiana?
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Which is where they had a big flood.
In Louisiana, New Orleans is exactly southwest of Detroit. All that stuff ain't none of that stuff coincidence. There's too many of them to be a coincidence, because a coincidence is only two. Now we tying together 25 and 30 different things that's all connected.
Planes falling out the sky, planes landing and flipping on the runway, crashing, going up 1 minute and exploding and going down the next minute. It's a lot of crazy stuff.
And helicopters smashing into airplanes randomly.
Maybe a helicopter. Or maybe it was being remotely driven. Who knows what was
it? It don't matter. It's still a helicopter if it was a drone helicopter.
Right.
Right. And then the president of one of them African banks that was over here, he died in a plane crash over here, or a helicopter crash over here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm wondering if he ain't the one that was on the helicopter that was the remote control was took over from in the remote location to fly it into the plane, and they just separated the reports so they don't seem similar.
Wow.
Because they say it was supposed to have been somebody important on the helicopter. Military dudes is putting that on TikTok.
Really?
They say that they give you the classification of the flight. They mean that it was somebody on there important. It was him and his son came up dead. I was in Nigeria. I don't think it's Nigeria, but it's an African country. And he was over here to tie into America returning to the gold standard, and to do business with the new corporation that's on the rise, the new people the return of the tribes. And that's why he was summarily dismissed from his duties. They don't never want us to make connections in a multicultural linking to overthrow the colonizers on all lands at the same time. But if we don't overthrow the colonizer on all lands at the same time, he's just going to regroup on somebody else's land and attack us again. We all have to be in on getting rid of the colonizers. Every tribe all over the planet. So you see him making moves in Samoa. The sister did the Hecka thing at the women's soccer tournament, the big women's soccer tournament. Came out there, led that Hecka, had the whole country. Then another one turn around and do the Hecka in the Senate building, and she's an elected official, really letting them know we taking this back. They use those things to talk to the other tribes so we think that we can all sync our moves. Right? Everybody do their part. We get rid of these SOBs. And the first thing we got to do is stop down talking people when you don't know what you're talking about.
Right, right.
Right? If people that have been telling y'all for 50, 60, 75 years like Taj, y'all don't want to listen because he wouldn't have had to tell y'all that many years for you to know how to organize. But he got to repeat it like a broken record. Not just him. See Freeman Hill. Right? We had all of the other leaders that tried different stuff like Yahweh Ben Yahweh. We let the government tell us what to think about the leadership that's naturally rising up so they can insert the leaders they want us to have. We not buying it no more. And that's why I give this information that I have attained over the years away for free, because once the babies get a hold of it and they see the vein of information starts to reveal itself when you start digging past the lies, it's over. And that's where we at now. The babies got it. The music is changing in the culture. Kendrick Lamar is a representation of that. They not like us. They look like us, but they ain't us.
That's right.
And they passed off all these people as scapegoats. So you can turn on each other. Now we want to attack the Mongolians they brought over as slaves to try to replace us with. Some of them didn't want to help us. They took sides with them. You know them because they don't look like no regular Mongolian. They look more pale face, and they own casinos. Not all casino owning tribes are in on it, but all of the ones in on it own casinos. All of the broke tribes, look at their socioeconomic condition. If it's the same as the south side of Chicago, is it the same as Jamaica, Queens? Is it the same as Brooklyn? Is it the same as Philly? The socioeconomics tell you who they're stealing the money from. Because the ones who ain't getting the money access is the ones that's targeted to steal the money from. The tribes ain't never been broke over here. That's all they was trying to do was live off our wealth as long as they could until one of the chiefs say, hey, this is what they doing. They're using this artificial corporation masquerading as a proper jurisdictional authority on the land. Don't none of them people in them courts belong here. Don't nobody call the police belong here. The only law enforcement that we ever had was the one appointed by the local people in the area. You cannot bring outsiders in to police my community because that's warfare. That's occupation of foreign territory. If you don't know what an occupied territory is, you need to investigate it. Then you'll understand why the police look like they soldiers, because they is. They work for the crown. They don't work for us. That's why their job is to serve, protect, and break a brother's neck. That's why they were shooting us in the back in California that made the largest two clans on the West Coast wake up at the same time. The only problem is that they didn't know that they ain't the enemy to each other. They the enemy to the one they was brought here to destroy, to get off the land. Now they get it.
Oh, wow.
Now they get it. The OGs out there is reorganizing. What we gonna do, OG? We need to get some bread. Hit them people in the pockets like they did us. Make them shut down Nordstrom's. Make them pack their gold stores up. Because when you send in 1,000 or more, they can't do nothing. All they got, police can't even arrest nobody. It's in the law because of the 92 Rodney King situation. Yeah, when during the Rodney King situation, they told you about all of the burnings and stuff that the so-called people was doing, but they didn't tell you about the dirt the police was doing. The police was using the cover of the riot to execute key people in the community that they thought had control and influence and label them as dead drug dealers and label it as a drug-related crime. And Iran-Contra proved that the government was the ones bringing in dope. They was flooding it into our communities. And now you starving because we didn't cut off your socioeconomics. You're not allowed to get a skilled trades position because you don't look the part. Right? So when they systematically shut us out of finance, what we supposed to do? The tribal way is to get it off the land. Get it off the land. If you can't get it from the dirt, you ain't from over here. And in this case, get it from the dirt, landed them into a whole bag of snow, the snowman effect. Bill Clinton, CIA code named the snowman. Brought more dope into Arkansas than you could possibly imagine. He brought more dope into Arkansas than Big Meech ever seen. And used the police to transport it. And everybody in Arkansas know. All the tribes watching, they just ain't saying nothing. But you got leadership down in Arkansas waiting to tell the story about how the snowman snowed them in. And all that stuff is related. The ice is on the land. That means ice is on the land. I mean, Big Mama home. And when we about to have a heat up, that's called the King's Son effect. It's a heat up. It's another song in the culture that's telling you what to look for. You looking for the heat up after the freeze, because the queen of the north is coming to restore the queen of the south. The ice princess has become the ice queen. She's the dame of the north. And it's just so ironic, Notre Dame is where they hatched that slave plot. That's why the cathedral looked like the slave ship, because it was an academic programming application. And the place that it was designed was struck from with a ship. They got pictures of the ship sitting right there watching it burn. And then they brushed it out, airbrushed it out on the news. Because that's where they hatched that plot. It was an academic plot. It was an educational paradigm in order to enforce some stuff called racism.
Yeah.
One of the biggest fallacies ever given to man as a tool to divide and conquer in order to maintain the artificial caste system based on skin color. So when he telling you about when he doing all of the play out in the arena, he's reenacting a story that's being told, and you got all of these people that did good breakdowns of it. B-Dale got one, Phase One got one. I got a couple of sisters that dropped some, and a lot of people that went in and started translating the story, but don't just take there for the Super Bowl halftime show.
I did one too.
Did you? I didn't know you done one.
I did one too. It's out on Facebook. I sure did. I did.
So when you translating the symbolism, the more people's translation you look at, the better and clearer you can see the picture. Because you need all of those perspectives. Those are different people looking at the crime. You can't take one person's side of the story when it's 22 witnesses. And you only going to accept one witness out of 22. You left 21 of them unaccounted for. But when you see what all of them saw, now you can look at it again and see what you see for yourself.
Right. Right, because it's like anything that's happened at a crime or something, all the witnesses see it from their perspective. And somewhere along the line, if you look at them all, you're going to find some continuity in there. You may find varying perspectives from whatever angle they saw it, but there also should be some points that are in, very congruent and hey, see, everybody said that. Matter of fact, I'll share what I wrote if you don't mind. So, it wasn't no big deal, but I called it a baby boomer's perspective on Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl performance, because I was seeing all these people saying it was the worst Super Bowl halftime, this and it was so much stuff, but I kind of looked at the folks that were saying it, and I said, those who got it. Those who didn't, well, they not like us anyway. They're mad and confused because this wasn't the usual satanic, ritual-filled, sex magic, spell casting Super Bowl spectacle they've been accustomed to. Kendrick Lamar presented an in-your-face message of truth, restoration, and liberation from the grip and control of the colonizing forces that have, quote-unquote, traded places with, quote-unquote, us long enough. Like many of the old, quote, Negro spirituals that were actually used to send hidden message that a run for freedom was imminent, Kendrick Lamar took advantage of their most widely watched ritualistic event and flipped the script to speak truth to power, and I put the system on their nickel before the whole world. That was payment enough for Kendrick, because they were saying, you don't get paid for the Super Bowl. And I said, game over. Those looking to be entertained have but to turn on the mainstream news or The Simpsons. By the way, I said I'm an almost 70-year-old great grandmom, and obviously I got it. So that was my response to the people that said it was terrible. I didn't think it was. From my perspective, and other people saw different things, but that's what I saw.
117 million people tuned in to watch the halftime show. Did not watch the game.
And, well, you know what? Before you said it, some folks were saying that they turned it off at it, but they didn't, because a lot of folks, if they were off, was because they knew at the halftime that the Eagles had won and the Chiefs had lost too. And I mean, I think
because it was a blowout at the halftime. It was like 20-0. It was a blowout at halftime.
Right.
But what's what they're not telling you? They saying that 107. The way that they slanting the story, it looked like they trying to say Kendrick ran off the people that normally watch the Super Bowl, but that's not the case. There's two reasons that the halftime show 117 million people left the show. Trump left and Kendrick was finished performing. We ain't come to see the ass end of the mule as he leaves in the barn. We seen the butcher when he went in, and we seen the one who was supposed to carry the top of the carcass away. So we don't want to see the ass end of the ass going out the back though. We came to see Kendrick butchered them, right? And now Trump is just carrying away the carcass with the audits. He done sicked his doge on him, his doggy. Right? So it don't matter what they doing now. It's over with. It's just going through the process. They can't give it back to us until they know what they got to give us. They gotta know. We gotta know. They gotta tell us what was stolen, what was misappropriated, what was patently lost. They say is lost. And that we ain't gotta force nothing. You remember back in 2008, after the banks crashed, they started having all them emergency city managers come in and try to draw all these cities out of bankruptcy. And they were selling off the properties and everything from the city because they was corporations. They needed that's what Trump is to the federal government. He's a liquidator. You need a CEO of a corporation to come in to liquidate the assets. But before he can liquidate anything, First, he had to settle the bankruptcy. That means any of your property that get all your shit back. So now we panicking because we see all of the American finance and paid for UN properties rolling across the land. And the United States was the biggest financier of the United Nations, trying to keep the other world under the influence of the New World Order, because we didn't know that the New World Order started when Columbus landed. And they labeled this the New World because they was creating a military outpost. The only problem was how they gonna convince these badass tribes over here, the brave and the free, to come and fight for them. They have to make themselves look legitimate. So they use their uniforms and their uniform system. That's straight Machiavellian. They look legitimate, but they ain't legitimate. They frauds. They de facto. They masquerading as the government. They are foreign police and agent, and they have to figure out through the educational system how to keep the children from growing up and taking back what's rightfully theirs by blood and by right. And when I say by blood, that means your blood tied to the land. That means your mama mitochondria came from a specific geographic location on the land. That means that the mitochondria that she tied back to the first woman that emerged from that land. Because the mitochondria way older than the Y chromosome. That's when all the interlopers start trying to sneak in. Freaks from other places. Demented and twisted psychological makeups with a misrepresentation of what the great mother is. So they want to try to usurp her. So they put the Pope seat under hers. Because can't no man sit on Big Mama's seat unless his ass fry on the spot. So the sacerdotal seat of the earth, the sacerdotal seat of the land. The sacerdotal seat of the land was in Philos, the love, Delphi, of the Delphi priestesses, the oracles. But they told us it was the city of brotherly love.
Philadelphia, yeah.
Blatant misdirection. David Copperfield at his finest. And when you start reading the culture on the land, and the most loved, most respected across the land, you understand why we are all doing our individual parts from where we at. And then we co-sign each other in order for the people to know who doing the work. Because if you don't know who working for you, you're going to ride with who working against you, telling you they working for you. But it's just a difference. The ones that's down with you ain't trying to exploit you, but the ones that's telling you they down with you, exploiting you, is the enemy. So you heard what Farrakhan say about Kendrick, right?
No, I didn't.
Well, let's listen. Long before the Super Bowl.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That was long before the Super Bowl.
Oh, that wasn't okay.
Long before the Super Bowl. Now, when Kendrick came out the halftime, what did he say about the revolution?
Televised. Being televised.
But it won't be televised on TV. It's playing out on social media in everybody's face. Taj told him I was the closer, and I've been closing this stuff, and they want to take and throw rocks at me while I'm building their castles.
So see, because too many, there are people that that mistakenly are trying to put out, and it was even somebody said something in the very beginning that you are trying to take Taj's place. You ain't never been trying to take Taj's place, and Taj has never felt like you've been trying to take his place. And I wish the folks that have that mentality would stick to doing something and saying something positive. But nevertheless, like you said, they not all like us just because they look like us.
Yeah, they not. But even the biggest fallacy ever told us is we all supposed to get along. Who told us that? The tribes. This is what we call run that fade. But we did used to kill each other behind it. Right? We didn't used to lose a good potential future leader because somebody can't take their ass with them. Right? For what I say about people that think that I'm trying to replace Taj, if you want your 90-year-old mama to get up and clock a clock and go to work every day, that's the type of person you are. If you think that I'm trying to replace Taj, how you gonna replace the irreplaceable? He didn't already left his footprint, and my shoes don't fit. I can't walk in his footprints. I can only stand on his shoulders. I can only continue, take the baton and run to the next level. I can't replace him. He's irreplaceable. He just as irreplaceable today as Noble Drew Ali. And then I told the sister last night on a different show on my live, I was like, we not gonna even understand the importance of Noble Drew Ali until we get rid of the dirty Moors. When we get rid of the dirty Moors, and they gonna get got rid of, because they know who they all is. But when you get rid of the dirty Moors, then that whole Circle 7, them oral statements and prophecies, that stuff gonna have a whole new meaning to you. He was telling you in a tribal way how to break the codes. And they started putting dogma in and taking terms like a depth chamber to make themselves sound like they deep. Like they got some secret superior knowledge that you can't attain because you're not as smart as them. That ain't what the prophet brought. And y'all not going to even understand the glory of the prophet Noble Drew Ali, the glory of the messenger Marcus Garvey, the glory of the messenger Elijah Muhammad. Y'all not going to understand until we get done getting the enemy out the way exactly what they was trying to tell us, because now it's all mixed up because it's above most people pay grade is the simplest way to put it. Everybody in the tribe is not supposed to have the same skill set. All of the chiefs across the land is not supposed to be performing the same function on the same problem at the same time. You ain't gonna never make progress, right? If you need to dig a man, you can't have everybody trying to dig the same size hole at the same time. You got to send them in waves. That the ones going in first starting the hole, the ones come behind them making it a little bigger. The ones behind them make it a little bigger. And everybody just as important as the first man and the last man. This is how we saw it in the tribes. This is why when we had problems with each other, we know our temperament. It shows in our culture, right? We'll love you all day, but don't piss us off. We don't do that. We rather give you a hug than punch you in the face, but we had no problem punching you in the face if you need it. And sometimes we're going to get punched in the face too by one of our own. They're going to punch us in the face because we out of line. And now they made all of these restrictions on the culture and told you it was the law. You let your enemies educate your children into believing that the enemy is their savior. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
they're trying to tell you now to take your child out of school, but you keep sending them.
Right, with the Department of Education being scrutinized, and folks are all up in arms, and they really are not even talking about getting rid of education, even though they should be getting erudition. They're talking about taking it out of the hands of an government organization that has nothing in mind except to program your children in whatever direction that they're going at at a given time. Like I said, they've added in all of these various genders, and you can be this and you can be that. None of it has been for erudition. So they don't know that taking it back to the state level at least gives them more of an opportunity to be more involved in what their children are learning, if at all. But they're I saw the sister on when they were doing the hearings for RFK Jr., and she says, what do you mean Black people don't need the same level of vaccinations as other people? I mean, and he said, because your antibodies are stronger, and she had a fit. She didn't even, her brain was so washed that she couldn't hear that he was saying, you all are stronger. You don't need all this stuff pumped into you. But she said, I won't be voting for you. But of course they did confirm him, because they just kept showing the handful that were talking crazy and greasy, instead of the fact that folks probably realize that he's going to go in here, like you said, go in and why do we have 27 ingredients in a cereal over here, and over in the other countries it may have 3? You know what I mean? Why do we have red dye, yellow dye, blue dye? Do we have
And
stuff
all that stuff you can't pronounce.
right, with stuff that they can put use in a car, and that's in your food, and all of these different things that he's talking about? I'm like, well, how crazy do you have to be to think that that's a problem, that somebody's trying to clean up the FDA and all of these things that have been approved for, safe for human consumption? And maybe they are human for humans, but not for us.
Listen, the war effort, silent weapons, is for quiet war. Why do you fight a quiet war? The only reason you keep the war quiet is because you don't want the people you wage war against to know that you wage war against them.
Right. Yeah.
When they put a warrant out, it's a ad warranto continuum. That means it's a continuation of an issued warrant. And that first warrant was signed by the president to get us off the land so that the U.S. corporation could expand west, which brought about they was paying for our hair. They wanted to know it was the woolly hair. That's where the scalping was. They got us believing that the tribes over here was scalping them, and that's not what was going on, because they got the newspaper clippings that had the bounty records in the newspaper of one of our scalps, what they go for. First, they was paying for a whole head, but then they started having too many heads in their coffers. So then they would say, well, we don't want the whole head, just bring us the scalp. All this is in newspapers from San Francisco from back in the day. You can look this up. You can send AI and ask AI about the government's campaign to exterminate the Indians in the West. We was called outlaw tribes. They did not do business with us because we didn't want to do business with them. But they expanded their corporate reach onto our territories all the way from coast to coast, from sea to shiny sea. What they call their flag? Old Glory. That's an old victory. They thought that they was going to be able to oppress us indefinitely. They believed that none of the tribes was going to see how they was moving as long as they maintained their uniform commercial standard. When we had the Pony Express that they turned into the U.S. mail, we rode horseback in tribal regalia. But now they give you all of these fantasy Western movies making you think it was the paleface that started the Pony Express. Pony Express is old as this land is. Ever since we've been here, we've been having couriers sending messages from my big mama to your big mama. Half the time they ain't even know